Hi, this is Peter with Plumbing Express. Today we are looking at the Infinity Drain System. It's one that we've used quite a few times now and really enjoy some of the features that it has. It allows you to change where the outlet is in the overall length of the linear drain. Let's go ahead and start unboxing it and take a look at what we find inside. You can see here, Infinity Drain, nice, made in the US of A. Then inside we start off with some of every guy's favorite, some instructions. A lot of people like to just take instructions, of course, and throw them away. That's not what we think is the best thing to do. You always want to hang on to instructions because you want to make sure you follow those to properly install everything. This isn't about taking your best guess, it's about doing the way the manufacturer wants you to. We have some of their adhesive that you use for installing the end caps on some of those sections. We have a baggie here. This baggie is going to contain your end caps for the plastic trough drain itself, the linear drain. A little hair catcher in there as well, just to keep the hair and some of the debris from getting down inside the P-trap of your shower. Now the next section we have here is going to be, this is the plastic connector that you use to situate where your drain base is going to go. And so between this and this, you have your connector piece. And then let me just go ahead and set this down here for right now, and we'll go inside here and get out our actual linear drain. And so this white piece that's on top, this channel that's in there, you can see here, lists right on there, this channel is to prevent flexing. And so whenever this is installed, and again, so we have this piece right here, it slides right on the end. And no, you don't normally put it all the way here on the end, but what I wanted to show you is, if you have the drain right in the center, you're able to cut this right in the center and install it right there. But on the other hand, if you have the drain where it's off center from where you actually want the trough drain to sit, you're actually able to cut it here, install this in place, and then no one will ever know that that is where your actual drain goes down into the floor versus where your trough drain runs. So whenever this is installed, you get into a situation where the tile guys are going to be putting in the mud and float, and that can press in on here and cause it so that your trim piece does not fit down inside there. So by having this channel inserted into there, it makes it so that whenever they're doing the work, they're not able to push in as they're putting the mud around there and squeeze in on that and make it so that the trim channel will not fit in there later on. All right, let's see what else we have in here. We have our handy dandy handle, and what this is for is it's able to be inserted when this is off of here. We insert it down inside the edge, and it allows us to twist and lift out the grate that's in there. So even though we have that hair catcher, you never know when debris might get down inside there. You want to be able to take that out and clean, so that's what that handle is for. Then we have our first of our color match products. And so it says right on here, do not discard. This is not just a plastic tube inside here. So what this is actually trim pieces for the edge of your drain. And so where those are going to go is these actually slide out and they clip on the edges of your gray drain right here. And what that does is it provides a finished metal edge that's going to show whenever the tile work is done. So again, you want to make certain you hang on to these. Do not get rid of that, because that is what's going to give it that really nice finish. And this finish on this shower is brazen bronze. Very pretty, like dark gold color. So you can see here, this is also sizable, so you don't have to worry about where the drain is in this, but you are able to cut the ends, either one or both, to be able to shorten it to make sure it fits into your trough drain, your linear drain, whenever it's installed. So we took a look at all the components here. Let's go ahead and take a look and see what it's like to get these installed. All right, so here we are inside our shower area, and what we want to look at is the drain positioned in the center of the finished overall shower. So we've got a piece of rock board here that's going to go up against this edge. They haven't finished attaching it yet, but we have that here. Along with, we're going to use this to simulate the tile that's going to go on there. So that way it gives us a pretty good idea of how wide overall that we're going to end up with from the face of the tile to the face of the tile on the other side. Now, if we did everything just right and they've built it out evenly on each side, we should end up in the center with the drain. So let's see what we're going to end up with overall. Looks like we're going to be about 34 inches, maybe just a hair less. So that's going to put us at 17, because that's half of 34. Let's take a look in here and see. From the tile to the center, we are almost right exactly on 17. So that's going to work out great for us to be able to set that drain just in the middle. and then we'll be able to have it so that overall we'll have the same distance from on each edge, but we'll still be able to have that drain section right in the middle of the overall shower. Okay, for our next piece here, we've measured the drain area upstairs, and we need to have 33 inches overall. So what we need to do is we need to take this, which is about 37 3/4 of an inch, turn it into a finished 33 inches. Now, one of the things we have to watch for on that is we've got to install this outlet base and these end caps. Now, the nice thing that they've done is these end caps each account for about a 1/16 of an inch as far as thickness. And the fitting makeup here is 1/8 short of being 2.5 inches. So the nice thing is the way they designed this, all we'll have to do is account for a 2.5 inch makeup length overall and be able to have that in the center. So since we want this to be at 33 and we need to take out 2.5 inches, we're going to cut this overall to 30.5 inches. That's going to give us the length that we need to have. Then we'll be able to cut that dead center and install our actual outlet so that we have it exactly the right length. So since we're going to be cutting this, one of the things we always want to do is get a nice mark on there. The reason why I mark this all the way around is because what I do find on these is because they are not very thick. Sometimes you're actually better to take them and lay them flat and cut them than you are to face up and cut down into them. So we've got that mark for the length that we need to have. As with everything we cut in life, it's a measure twice, cut once. So we want 30.5 inches. That's exactly 30.5 inches. So we have our trusty chop saw here. And we always want to be safe, so we have our safety glasses. And we have our earmuffs to put on. All right, so we're going to position this. We're going to check it. Put a little bit on there. All right, so I'm going to get this situated in there. I don't want to tighten it up too much. I am going to try to cut it with the channel facing up. I'm going to cut it real slow to be able to. All right, now that we got the cutting done, we can take off our earmuffs. And let's double check this and see where we ended up. Hopefully ended up right where we were supposed to, which is exactly at 30.5 inches, which is great. That's where we wanted to be. Now, because we know that this drain outlet needs to be right in the center, that's exactly where we want to go ahead and cut that. So I'm going to go ahead and measure. So 30.5 is going to give us 15.25 to the center. And just to be safe, we're going to measure back and verify that's exactly where we wanted to end up. And again, the reason why we're doing this is because this is going to add between this center outlet and these two end pieces, you're going to end up with a total add of 2.5 inches. So we cut it to 30.5, we're going to add back in 2.5, that's going to give us our total of 33. So let's go ahead and cut again. So when we take it easy and we gently cut that, we end up with two pieces that are exactly the same length. And let me get my earmuffs off there. Let's go ahead and check this out. We'll slide these two pieces in here and measure them along with our end caps that go on the ends. What we want to see is that we should end up right at 33, and we are perfectly outside edge to outside edge right at 33 inches. So we've got this the exact length that we need it. Now we're going to go ahead and we need to double check this. So we're going to take it upstairs real quick and check it in that bathroom to verify that it definitely looks good before we glue it. Because just like cutting, once we glue, we're done. There's no going back on gluing this in place, so we need to make certain that it's definitely the exact right fit. We didn't make an incorrect measurement. So we're going to take it upstairs. We might need to trim it or something like that, and if that's the case, we'll be able to do it. Once we glue it, we are pretty well set, unless we're going to be able to come from the end, cut off the edges or ends a little bit. Now at this point, we've removed the plug from out of the drain, and we're going to be screwing our body down into here. So, excuse me, not the body, but this is going to be our threaded adapter. And we normally can screw that down pretty much all the way. With the height of these drains, it usually pretty much requires that these be set as low as possible. So we're going to keep screwing that in until pretty much it's almost all the way as low as it will go. And what we can do is we can use our outlet piece to actually sit on here and just gauge this. We should be pretty good about right there. So that should still fit without us hitting the actual bolts, therefore the shower ring that clamps down to make this a watertight product. All right, so now that we verified for certain that we definitely have it in the right space, I've gone upstairs, I've double checked that it's going to end up in the center of the shower overall. Now we need to get it glued together because we want to make this one solid piece, because right now everything comes apart still. So we start with, and one of the things that is very nicely done about this, I have to give Infinity Drain a lot of credit. They design a system that really fits well together. It's not that you wouldn't go ahead and glue this together, but I would tell you that I think that even without it, it goes together so well. There is not a lot, there's not even not a lot of play. There is no play in here. That goes in there just really solid and finishes off great. What we're going to do is we're just going to put a little bit of glue on there just to firm up how well it's going to hold together. And we don't need too much, so we're just going to brush a little on there on those edges, and then we're going to go ahead and fit that together, and that's going to be enough for us to have that hold. We can go ahead and set that down. Notice I've got some extra cardboard laid down, so that way it makes it that we are not getting it directly on the cardboard, the ram board that they put down to protect the floor. All right, so we get that on that edge. Then we go ahead and get that glued on there. Now, our final step we want to do, just like those end caps, this same channel design fits in there as well. And one of the things that's really impressive is they actually have this angled groove in there. So as this slides in, it's made that it has to fit so it holds together, and that makes this top edge just perfectly lined right up. Really impressive, the fit and finish that they've come up with for this design. So we're going to do the same thing we did before. We're going to get a little glue on there, and since this actually goes together not just on the ends, this has that little bit there as well, we're going to go ahead and fit that together. I'm going to put that on the side for now. We're going to go ahead and get a little more glue on this other section, as well as the ends. We're going to go ahead and slide that together. We're going to make sure that all those grooves have gone in correctly so that we end up being just exactly right like we want to be. And then we're going to go ahead and position this down, so that way it is going to stay in a straight line, because it's very important, of course, that we end up with it being exactly straight, so that when the tile guy works on it, he's able to easily get his tile lined up with everything. But again, the other great thing about this system is the way they've designed how these interlock. It makes that there really isn't much ability for it to flex, for the channel to want to be able to create a bow either direction. It pretty much goes in, and because of just how tight the tolerances are, it's going to stay together. But we always like to just make certain that we get it set so it has a way of being able to definitely stay that way. We don't want there to be any chance that it ends up with a bow in it. So we're going to let that sit for a while, and we're going to come back to it, and we'll take it upstairs and double check that it works out, that it's just right where it's supposed to be. While we have the channel for the other bathroom drying downstairs, one of the things we have to work on up here is my tile channel, here is my drain. Not exactly the same length. So the great thing is Infinity Drains gives you a wonderful worksheet to make it so that you're able to actually do your calculations. So the first thing we have to do is we have to actually measure the inside measurement of our channel. So we end up at 33 1/8 of an inch. So we're going to be using that measurement. I'll go ahead and pop this lid back on for right now. We're going to use that 33 1/8 measurement along with the worksheet to cut this channel to the right length so that way, whenever they're doing the tile work, they'll be able to put the tile into this and it will drop into a finished space there, and it's going to look great. And of course, the whole goal of this is that you want to have the same distance all the way around for the entire channel so that there is just a single sliver that's continuously the same thickness all the way around for the water to drain down into. So 33 1/8, that's the number that we're working off of. All right, so while we have the other channel drying in the background, our next goal, as we just talked about, is to change this into the right length to fit the drain that we have upstairs. Now the drain that we have upstairs, the inside channel dimension is 33 1/8 of an inch. Now Infinity Drain is nice enough that it gives you this great worksheet that makes it so that you can actually do your calculations. And so you have all your things, you just input the numbers. So to make it easy, I went ahead and just did it on this piece of cardboard right here. So we started off with 33 1/8 inches. We're going to subtract 1/8 of an inch to get us to 33. We're going to subtract 9/16 of an inch from the 33 to end up with 32 7/16. So that is the overall length that we need to cut the actual channel. But here's the thing. If you notice, we have these end caps on here. Those end caps are there, of course, to just make it so that it has a finished edge. So we've got to take that loose. So one of the things that we're going to be doing, as you can see, we do have some holes in here, but also most importantly, we have some feet. Now those feet are attached in a way that we are not changing because they actually have rivets that hold them in place. So when we do the measurement on this and we're going to shorten it up, we want to make certain that we are not compromising these feet, nor, because these feet, this has feet on there as well, we're not getting where we actually are conflicting with this. So we have to make certain that we are not, we would like to all just cut from one end, but we may have to cut a little bit from each end to make it work out correct. So we said the measurement we were looking for was 32 7/16. Let's measure this. So we've got 32, 8/16 would be 32 1/2. So we're going to come one back from there. And that's our spot, 32 7/16. So immediately, one of the things I can see there is one of the feet is going to be in the way. So I'm not going to just be able to cut that off to there because if I do that, we're going to run into a problem. So what I need to do is cut it down to probably about somewhere in that vicinity so that way we can actually, well, maybe actually do is I'll see if I can line this hole up with the hole that's there already. I'll make a mark so I can cut it right there. Then once we have that cut, we'll go ahead and flip it to the other end, measure, and then trim it back here so that we don't have a situation where we are conflicting with one of these feet. So let me go ahead and I'm going to clean that mark off of there. One of the great things about this metal is it's really nicely done. It's got a great finish on there. So as a result, everything pretty much will just rub right off of there. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get this lined up so that I can have this hole reutilized. Okay, so one of the things that we have run into a problem with here is the feet are going to be an issue for us. They want to hit against here and make it so that we don't actually have a good way of having a square cut on that. So what we're going to do to try to help ourselves out with that is we're actually going to come over here to our feet, because what we need is something to help hold this off. And what we want to do is, let's see, where's our mark again? So all we're really looking for is just to create something to be an even standoff. So that way we know for certain it is definitely a straight cut. And it looks like we may even be able to get the vise to help hold it in place. Let's check it real quick. All right, we're just a hair short. All right, so we got a nice straight cut there. Of course, we got our end that's going to fit right up against that, and it looks like we did just perfect, because let me bring this over to you. Looks like we did a great job on that. We ended up with the hole lining up just perfectly, but we won't put that in quite yet. Now we've got to finish it off though to the right length. And because of the fact that we can't hit those feet, we had to go ahead and actually come up with a way to be able to balance this out. So our total measurement that we want to finish off at is 32 7/16. So let me measure for my cut end now. 32 7/16. All right. So we got a good measurement there. Let's see. I think we ended up having to put it on its side. So let me go ahead and pull that measurement again. 32 7/16. All right. So we're going to use these feet again to create a ledge so it holds off. Let me go ahead and get my ear muffs back in place. So let's slide that into position. Okay, so now that we've got our two ends cut, what we can do is we can slide these on here and check and see how close did we end up being to the length that we said we needed to be. So we said we wanted to end up at 32 7/16, but really a finished measurement of 33. Yep, right there where we want to be. That is great. Okay, so now that we've got these ends cut to the correct lengths, the next part that we want to do is we want to go ahead and we'll run one screw back into there to hold onto this one foot, and then we'll have to drill out a hole and actually get the other one in place. So, and we'll run that in right on the money. All right, now I'll go ahead and I'll drill out this other one, because if I put it on here so you can take a look and see. So our hole doesn't quite line up for the screw to be able to go in there. Take a look there so you guys can see it. So our screw hole in the foot of this is actually a hair too high. That's okay, all we'll do is we'll just get in here, open this up a little bit, but not so big that the screw will go through it, and that allows us to tighten it up on there as well. All right, so we had to leave from where we were on the job site and end up coming back to the office because we lost our light out there to be able to actually work since there wasn't power in the house. So now what we're looking at is we've got the overall length of the trench part cut. So the linear drain holder itself is cut. We went ahead and we have our piece here is already cut and screwed together to the right length. So you guys can see we've got this set to the right length to drop right inside of here. But now we've got to finish up trimming this off. And as you can see, I've gone ahead and put the end pieces on here. And so now we're going to be cutting these sections here. And the whole goal here is not to have it so it ends up like this, so you have this corner piece here that you can see, but is truthfully to trim this in a way where you take off some of this inside but leave the top so that you have a finished edge here at the top. So what we're going to do with that is, first off, this piece that comes is full length. So as you guys can see, it's going to run the full original length of this actual gray trench drain section. So as it is right now, if I was to put it in the very back, you can see you've got this much hanging off. So the first thing we're going to do is measure the actual overall length and trim this to fit, and then we're going to actually trim these edges. All right, so I've gone ahead and cut my piece to fit, so now it's the right length. So now, as I said before, the next thing I've got to do is the longer edge is the actual finish edge that goes on the inside. So what I had to do is figure out about the thickness of that, and then I'm going to come back and I'm actually going to just trim this, just make a small cut here with a pair of tin snips. And so you can see I'm going to trim up the inside as well. All right, so now that I've got that little edge piece, so you can see what I've done is I've trimmed off the inside, excuse me, you can see I've trimmed off the inside edge here, but I've left this top piece longer. Now sometimes what happens with it is it gets a little bit bent when you're doing that trimming. So we're going to go ahead and we're just going to kind of work that back into position. So that way it's a nice finished edge on there. And then we're going to do the same thing on the other end. So we're going to trim this section right here. And obviously, as we know, we can always trim it again if we need to, so we don't want to go too far the first cut. And really the thickness of this is not that thick either. As I told you guys as we were working earlier, it really only ends up being about 1/16 of an inch for that plastic. So I've got my cut on this face, and then again I'm going to come in here and I'm going to nip that off. And sometimes it won't come all the way, so you're just going to go ahead and pry it off there. This edge didn't really bend out much at all, but there is a little bit of spalding left over that I need to get off of there from whenever we actually did the original cut. Okay, so you can see now what we've got is we've got the face cut, the face is cut off, and the top is left on there. So that allows us, let me put it over here so it's over the gray so you're able to see it better. But so the face cut and the top is different, so that way that as we put it on here, it's going to allow this to overlap and create a finished edge for us. Okay, now one of the things they usually recommend on this after you press fit it onto here is to take a rubber mallet. Oh, looks like I'm just a hair long still. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to trim a little bit off this end down here. Again, it's much easier to trim it a couple times than it is to make one big cut that's too long and then ruins it for the rest of it. Again, we're going to start press fitting that down into here so we can see that it's going to fit. And this time it fits just perfect down here, but what we're going to do to make certain that we are getting a really good look is we're going to come along here and we're going to tap this in place. So you want to use something here that is going to not mar this finish, because this is part of the finished product of the actual drain. You can use a rubber mallet if you don't happen to have that handy dandy rubber mallet with you. You can use something like this, a screwdriver. What you don't want to do is take the metal end of that hammer and put it on there. One of the other things I like to use sometimes is I will close this and actually use the rubber handles on this to tap it in place as well. Of course, the whole point is to get it where we have a nice edge that goes all the way around and has a nice finish piece to it all the way. So you can see here we got our plastic body, and then we've got the metal trim that goes all the way around it to make it so that we actually can have a nice finished edge that goes up there to the tile. And then last but not least, we have our cut. Put our little foot cap back on there. We have our cut piece for the actual tile to sit inside of that's going to drop down inside of there as well, just like that. All right, and our whole point when we get all done here is to finish up with something that looks like this. So you guys can see that The actual inside is all ready for the tile, but yet the outside is trimmed as well with that same finish. So then you end up with having tile to the edge. There'll be a tiled center section here. The only thing you'll be able to see is just this trimmed edge and then tile on the other side. Hope you guys enjoyed getting a chance to see how these are cut to fit, how they are prepared for installation by the tile guy. And at some point in time, what we'll do is we'll get a picture of these when they're in the finished stage so you guys can see what that looks like as well.